Let's start with our breath. And we want to be thinking about using our diaphragm. So breathing in and out of our nose is going to help us really fill up the lungs. You'll feel a 360-degree expansion of your ribs. And this is far better to help activate more parasympathetic response. Also, it's just more of a relaxing way to breathe. You won't feel lots of tension up high in your chest. It will really help us to irradiate through the body, which means creating full body tension using this intra-abdominal pressure as we move. And that's going to help us really work deeper into our joints. The first thing I want you to do is just squeeze the fists, about 30 to 50% tension, nothing too hard. Bring the hands by your sides. We're going to take breaths in through the nose and out of the nose. And just have a few rounds of breath here first. Close the eyes and just focus on where you're feeling that breath in the body. Have a little go at bringing the fingertips to touch on the lower ribs. This can really help you feel that expansion in the ribs as you breathe. So inhale, feel the fingertips separate. Exhale, feel them draw together. A couple more rounds. Really pushing all of the air out in those exhales. And again. Exhale, push the air out. Add a slight pause and then try and exhale a bit more. There's always a bit more in there. Inhale. And let's squeeze the fists again. 30 to 50% tension. We're going to start by working into our neck. First of all, bring your chin to your chest. Take your chin across to one shoulder. Feeling that stretch through the side of the neck into the traps, into those scalenes. And slowly lifting the chin up. Keep the jaw softly closed. Across to the other side and then down. Go back the other way. All the way across and down. We'll do once more each way. Still squeezing the fists and breathing through the nose. And from there, come back up to the center. We'll go into our shoulders from here. We can do this standing or kneeling. I'm going to go kneeling so that we can really block the hips and draw the ribs in. Come down onto one side. On the side where your hip is open, this is going to be your working arm. On the opposite side, we're going to squeeze that hand. So squeeze the fist, opposite arm comes up, and we'll go to our end range shoulder flexion, so taking the arm overhead. You might be a little bit wider, and don't worry if your range stops a bit quicker than mine does here. Might not be able to get your arm all the way up just yet. Avoid the ribs flaring, so draw the lower ribs down and really squeeze your bum. Once we've found that position, glutes tucked under, find that end range wherever you are. We're going to turn the palm out. Keep taking that arm back. The thumb starts to point towards the floor. And we're going to continue to internally rotate that arm so it doesn't stop rotating. You'll finish with the back of the hand on the hip. Still breathing through the nose and then take it back, reverse it. So find your end range shoulder extension. Slowly rotate, turning the thumb up. Bring the arm up to the top. Forwards and down. So we're still squeezing this hand, around 30-50% tension. You can start to squeeze it a bit harder and really try to irradiate through the body a bit more. But just to start with, don't turn on too much tension. So lifting up, find that end range, slowly start to rotate, thumb points towards the floor, trying not to let the whole body twist. Internally rotate that shoulder, back of the hand comes to the hip, now reverse it. Slow rotation coming up, forwards and down. Once more through, taking it up as high as you can, not letting those ribs flare. Keep the glutes on, start to rotate. And back again. And from here, we'll go onto the opposite side. So squeeze the hand on the side where the knee is in front, opposite arm as your working arm. Create some tension in the body, feel the ribs draw down, especially on those exhales. Squeeze the glutes, and let's take that arm up. Rotating it. Slowly bringing the back of the hand to the hip, and then reverse. Twice more. One more time through. And rest. Give your shoulders a little bit of a roll forwards and back. We're going to work into the spine. And for this one, we're going to give ourselves a hug. Just wrap the arms across the shoulders. Have your feet under your hips. And all we'll do from here is take our spine into flexion. So breathing through the nose, round out. From this position, we're going to laterally bend to one side. From our nice side bend, this top shoulder is now going to draw back as we rotate, looking over it. And that rotation leads us into an extension as we travel all the way across to the opposite side, looking over that shoulder. From this rotation, laterally add that side bend and come around to flexion at the front. We'll go back the other way. Lateral bend. Draw this top shoulder back as you look over it, starting to extend, rotate and then extend all the way across, looking over into that lateral flexion and round to the front. Once more each way. Lateral bend, rotate, extend, rotate, lateral bend and flexion. And back, lateral bend, rotation, travel around into that extension, looking over, lateral bend and round out. And come back up, give the shoulders, the spine a bit of a shake out. That's our thoracic cars, or working into the ribs and all the way through the trunk of the body. We're now going to move into the hips. For this standing variation, you may well need to hold on to something. I recommend doing that if you find you're going to hop about on one foot. So we'll help you focus more. We're going to squeeze the fists again. This time, bring them out in line with the shoulders. Make sure you're breathing in and out of your nose. We'll start by drawing one knee up, going into hip flexion. The bottom leg stays straight. So in this position, see how high you can draw that leg up. If you use your hands to pull it in, that's our passive range. If you try to let go from there, see if you can keep the hip in that same position. For your first one, you may want to start a bit lower and just make it a bit easier. But let's see how we go. So we've drawn that leg up, hip flexion here. Take the leg out to the side, squeezing the glutes. We're now taking the hip into internal rotation, turning the sole of the foot back. Feel the outer hip firing up. Try to lift it up from that outer hip. We'll go into hip extension, taking the knee behind the center line of the body, and then take the foot to the floor. That's half a rotation. We'll go back, bend the knee, take the knee behind the center line of the body. Nice big circle out to the side. Slowly externally rotate that hip, bring it forwards and lower. You can rest the shoulders between as well. We'll go on to the other side. Draw the knee up, take it out. Internally rotate the hip, taking it back into extension, squeezing the glutes, and lower the foot down. Again, bend the knee, pulling the heel towards the bum. Careful you don't pull too hard in case you go straight into cramp. You can ease into that tension, start to turn it up a little bit more with each one. Take it out, externally rotate, bring it forwards and lower. Rest the shoulders, back to the other side, draw the leg up. Trying to push that range a bit more each time now. Draw the knee up, take it out, internally rotate, really lifting from that outer hip. Take it back into extension and to the floor and reverse. Externally rotate the hip, really squeeze the glutes, draw the knee forwards, pulling up as high as you can and rest. Onto the other side again, draw the knee up and out. Internally rotate, build lots of heat here, keep lifting from that outer hip. Take it back and lower. Reverse. Pulling that heel towards the bum, out to the side, keeping the torso up as much as you can. Externally rotate it, bring it forwards and down. Shake the arms out a little bit. We're going to do one more each side. Again, make sure you are holding on to something if you're hopping about in the space. Okay, last one, draw the knee up and out. Squeeze the glutes, add a pause. Internally rotate, again adding another pause, really lifting from that outer hip. Feel that standing leg working super hard as well. Take the knee back and lower, reverse. Out to the side, lifting and lifting and lifting. Should almost be on the verge of cramp. Bring it forwards and rest. I'm getting out of breath now already. We'll go on to the other side. Last one. Draw the knee up and out. Internally rotate, add a pause, really lift from that outer hip. Squeezing the fists. Using that nasal breath and lower and reverse. Really lifting. Externally rotate, bring it forwards and down. Again, shake the shoulders out. So obviously I'm breathing a bit from my mouth because I'm talking to you. Make sure you're focusing on that nasal breath, really feeling that movement in the ribs. Really helps you to build that control and stability to support your spine. From here, all we're going to do is come onto the floor. So we're going to work into the knees and towards the ankles, the toes, and we'll also do a little bit of wrist work as well. So for our knees, we're going to sit one leg straight, other knee's bent. You're going to hook underneath it, and all we're going to do from here is you can turn the foot in, you can turn the foot out. That's our rotation at the knee. There is some rotation at our knee. It doesn't just flex and extend. So that rotation, you'll see that movement in the shin, and turn the foot in one way and then extend the leg. Don't worry if you can't fully extend it. It might be that you're here, and if need be, you can hold onto the leg instead rather than hooking the arm around. If you can get it all the way up, extend the leg, bring it in, turn the foot to face the other way. So we go inversion and eversion, lift it up and rotate and lift, draw it in, rotate and lift. You can also rotate at the top and draw it in, take it up and rotate. Once more. From there, let the foot come down. You're going to place the hands across the shin, really block the knee now. So now we're trying not to allow the shin and the knee to rotate. We're just going to look at the ankle. I normally have quite clicky ankles, so be warned, they might click a lot. We're going to block the knee, hold onto it, keep it still and just focus on the ankle. So we're going to point the toes down as hard as you can into plantar flexion, slowly turning the big toe in and then pulling the foot up, really pulling up as hard as you can. You should feel the muscles in the front of the shin firing up here. Now start to turn the foot out and slowly coming back down into plantar flexion again. We'll go the other way, turn it out, lifting the toes up into dorsiflexion, taking the foot in and pointing it down. Let's go once more back, pulling up, adding a pause, pulling up as hard as you can, like you're really trying to close this gap. Turn it out, Same for plantar flexions. We point down, pointing down as hard as possible. Feel the muscles in the back of the leg firing up. And then rest. We'll switch to the other side. So into the hamstrings, hook underneath or hold onto the leg. And all we're going to do is, remember, we're turning the foot in and out, so inversion and eversion, and then we're going to lift and extend the leg and down, switch the other way and extend. Notice if one side's a bit tighter than the other. I'm definitely feeling tighter in this leg today, but we can also add that change at the top. So extend up, turn the foot, and really feel what's going on in the leg too. You might feel a lot of tension, tightness in other areas, like in the calves. Might get some clicks like I just did then. Allowing our knee to rotate. One more. Don't worry if you can't extend the leg all the way up. It's all good. And then let's block that knee. Okay, so no movement now happening at the shin. We're blocking it. We're going to point the toes down as hard as possible. Feel some heat building into the back of the leg. Begin to rotate, allowing that foot to turn in. And pull up, firing up the shin, really trying to close that gap. Turn out and lower, and then reverse. Pulling up at the top, slowly turning in. Still breathing through the nose. And back. And again, turning up, pulling up. And then rest from there. So we can do this next bit seated or standing, or a bit of both. And we're actually going to get some movement at the toes. It can be a bit easier to reach the toes if you need to use your hands for assistance in the seated one. What we're trying to do is isolate our toe joints. So we're going to lift the big toes on their own, pushing all the other toes down into the ground. Then push the big toes down and push all the little toes up. And you may find to start with they don't move at all, so you can block them. So if I place my hands onto my little toes and let my big toes lift, or press them down and actually pull the big toes up, tell them where I want them to go. Same on the other one, push into the big toe, lift the little toes. And all we're doing is just alternating, lifting the big toes up, and I want you to think about pulling them up as hard as you possibly can, or using your hands. Really trying to lift, you get almost like a bit of a cramp sensation into the feet. Push them down and lift the little toes up. So we're working and building some heat and strength in those intrinsic foot muscles. And obviously our feet are the base, so if the feet aren't functioning well, everything further up the chain probably isn't functioning all that well as a result. Therefore, if we can really focus on our foot health, for example, being more barefoot and allowing the feet to actually move the way they're supposed to, rather than always supporting them in shoes, then this is also going to help a lot of our other mobility issues or restrictions, or things like pain that you might be getting, back pain, for example, it could be coming from your feet. So everything's connected, it's all one chain. If we can try and really help our base of support, you may really surprise yourself in the other benefits you get from putting that work in. So this is our seated variation. Obviously you can do this with or without the hands. We can do it standing as well. So now everything in the body's fired up together. I'm going to lift the big toes up, pull them up harder and harder and harder and harder, push them down, lift the little toes up. Really trying to spread them apart as much as I can as well. And you can like get a sock and like weave it in and out between your toes as well and give them a good stretch. It feels really nice. I'm going to press down and pull the big toes up and keep alternating. You can also look at getting yourself some toe spacers to wear as you're sort of barefoot around the house. And what we'll do for this last one is lift all of the toes up. Again, you can do this seated and use your hands for assistance. Push the little toe down, then the next one, and the next one, and the next one, the big toe. Ninja feet. Pull the big toes up, and then lift the next one, and slowly work your way out towards the little toe. So we're trying to isolate one at a time, which can really take some practice, so don't worry if this does not go to plan straight away. And this carve sequence is something that we can do every single day. It's not crazy taxing on the body. You can obviously make it easier by applying or using less tension, so building less tension in your body as resistance. Over time you can make it more challenging by increasing that tension, moving slower, adding isometrics. There's lots of ways that you can start to challenge it, but this is quite a basic one that we've done today. So a couple more of these. Just start to really feel some heat into those feet. And then release, maybe give them a little bit of a stretch out into the tops of the feet as well from there. Last little thing we're going to do just for the wrists is we're going to squeeze the fists, turn the palms up and then go for a bicep curl, turn the palms down and then extend. So we're taking the elbows through flexion and extension. Breathe through the nose, build some heat into the body, really squeezing the fists. Imagine you're doing a really heavy bicep curl. Just working into those tissues around the joints, adding that rotation in at the forearm and moving the wrists. And extend. Favorite one of mine to really look at our wrist mobility is to pull the fingers down and go into wrist flexion. Feel some heat into those forearm muscles. And the idea here is I'm trying to almost close this gap. So I'm really trying to actively pull down more and more and more. And I'll do the same for extension. So I'll turn up and then pull the fingers back into wrist extension. Again, still breathing in and out of your nose. Really pulling back. The intention is there that I'm turning that tension on more and more and more. I'm not just kind of finding that position and thinking, not a lot's going on here. I'm really trying to build some heat. Feel those muscles fire up. Turn them up and down. And we'll do one more of each. Obviously, over time, you can increase these holds and add more longer isometrics in these positions, as we can with everything else we've done. Okay, from here, spread your fingers, really pull them apart, as far apart as you possibly can. Feel that nice stretch into the palms of the hands. I'm going to draw the little finger in, the next one, the next one, the next one to the thumb, then go out, thumb, index finger, work your way out. And we'll draw it into a bit of a figure of 8. See if you can coordinate it. Pulling the fingers away from each other, building some tension and feeling those intrinsic muscles in your hands firing up. Now change direction. And again. And shake them out. That's our full body cast sequence. You can obviously break it up and do bits and bobs. You don't have to do the whole thing in one go, but also you can start to implement these parts of the sequence into every single day. And it might just be that you get up in the morning and do some neck cars, or do some toe cars when you're standing about in the kitchen, for example, or brushing your teeth. So there's ways that you can implement it day to day, and it's a great way to just keep your joints nice and healthy, work into their end ranges. And obviously, as I mentioned before, you can start to challenge this by doing things like adding in isometric holds. So it might be that you're in your hip cars and you're adding holds for longer periods of time, really trying to work that end range and start to add some form of progressive overload whilst doing the sequence, rather than doing it with the same amount of tension all the time. It might be that you start with 10-20% tension in your body as you're moving. Over time, you build that all the way up to 100%, where you're working really hard and really slow and adding in those holds. So enjoy that, guys. Hopefully you feel really nice for just getting up and moving your joints. And that's our first day of our 30 days mobility complete. Well done.